Hey, how are you? Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you giving up your time. I know you're a busy guy, particularly with the new book that you've just had out, and we'll come we'll come to that a little bit later. Get the plug in early, obviously. But one of the things I want to do, obviously, I want to talk today. There's been so much written over the last couple of years about AI, and we know ChatGPT, and now we got AI agents. And you're going to give us an intro about your background in a minute, which will obviously explain why we're talking to you about this topic. But I thought it might just be useful to have a video for our audience that kind of demystifies a little bit AI. So before we get into it, let me pass it over to you. Give us a brief introduction, who you are, what your background is, what you're doing now, and then we'll get into the wider conversation.
Sure. And thank you for having me on the show. So
You're welcome.
I'm Michael Goldrich, founder, chief advisor of Vivander Advisors. We focus on digital marketing and AI. I have over 20 years of hotelier experience in terms of more digital marketing, from Starwood to Wyndham to Dolce to Club Quarters. And after COVID, I said, you know what, let me try something different. Let me go to the technology side. And I went there to the hotels network, where I was the CXO until the recent buyout. So that's that little bit of my background. But for me, in terms of AI, so back in 2019, I read this article in Medium about the generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
So it said how you can take text and then run it through some sort of training, and you can create new text. So I got, and it said basically it's like you can rewrite Shakespeare and write a new Shakespeare play. I'm
Right.
I undergrad, I was a literature major.
Oh,
So I'm like, wow,
really?
that
Okay.
sounds that's very cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So I got the text, I ran it through, and I spit it out, and it was just nonsense. It spit out the words, and like I said, how I want the different words associated. So I went to a conference on AI in 2019, and I said, this is not ready for prime time. This doesn't make any sense. Like, I picked out the best of the best snippets, and it still made zero sense. So that's how I kind of got into the whole AI thing, into generative AI.
Yeah.
But at the Hotels Network, it is an AI forward company. We do a lot of machine learning. So
Mm-hmm.
I got to see from their perspective a lot of predictive
Yeah.
personalization.
Mm-hmm.
And then more recently, all about the generative AI, in which adding the platforms.
And I guess that leads us in, and as a caveat out there straight away, I think when I was putting this together, I got a lot of it. And yes, I used AI to help me pull this together. So I think we've got a lot of some of the terminology, but hey, it could be a lot wider. So no jumping in and saying, "Oh, you idiot, you haven't remembered this one or this one or this one." We're doing our best, but keeping it as simple as we can. So
Yeah.
let's start off first of all. So back to my point, we'll start off slightly wider, looking at, to your point, AI that actually we've all been used to using, but maybe historically we haven't thought, oh, that's AI behind that. That's AI doing it for us. So I've come up with three kind of areas: so classification AI, recommendation AI, and autonomous AI. So let's just pick up on each one of those to start with, and you tell us what they mean,
Okay.
what they're about, how we would have experienced them, and we'll cover those broad, and then we'll get into the hospitality side. So classification AI probably explains a bit in itself,
Yeah.
but what's that all
Yeah,
about?
so if you think about classification AI, it is one of the first and most basic of the AIs. And it's when the researchers first started doing this back in the 50s and 60s, they were trying to train the computers to understand what something is. So they keep showing them a picture of a cat. That
Mm-hmm.
this is a cat, this is a cat, this is a cat, and show different versions of it and describe it, say this is a cat, until it would understand if something is a cat or not. So another way to kind of think about classification AI is it's basically like a super fast sorter.
Okay.
So
Yep.
if you think about it for your email,
Yep.
something comes in, a spam folder.
Yep.
AI is just kind of pulling that garbage right out.
So when you're clicking this is spam, you're kind of training the AI system to recognize that and sort it out in the future. Yeah.
Yes, and also it also knows from other people that have
Yep.
selected, said this is spam. Anything from this domain is bad.
Yeah.
Anything that has this sort of subject line is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly. So it's really all about category. It categorizes data with sort of predefined classes. So that's what it is. Like this is spam. This is this type of email is high priority. This blah blah blah. So
Got you.
stuff like that.
That makes sense. Something we're all pretty familiar with. Okay, recommendation AI.
All right.
I guess I can guess where this is going to go, but tell us about it.
Yeah. So recommendation AI is essentially machine learning,
Mm-hmm.
and they call it like the Netflix effect.
Okay.
So it's, for example, if I log onto your Netflix account,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to look the same as my Netflix account.
Yep.
And what it's recommending to you is going to be different what's recommending to me. And that's what the recommendation AI is. It's looking at what you've watched in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You watched in entirety, or you watched just a little bit and clicked off, what you've thumbed up or thumbed down.
Yep.
And based on what you've picked, based on how they have these shows categorized, they might show more sci-fi,
Mm-hmm.
maybe for me, more rom-com,
Mm-hmm.
who knows, right?
Yes,
But
yeah.
that is, and it isn't just Netflix that does this, it's Amazon.
Yep.
And Amazon too, it looks at your past purchases
So when
and
it has
looks
those
at
recommendations at the bottom and say other people that had
yes,
this, bought this, or whatever it might be.
100%. So it is looking at my past purchases, and then it's creating essentially a profile of me, and it
Mm-hmm.
looks at other people that have bought similar things of me in the past, and they've liked that. So here's something that we think you might like.
Got you.
So that is how that AI is working, and it's interesting because when I do the talks, when generative AI first came out, and I would say when I was kicking off my talk, like, you guys have been doing AI for so many years, and you guys love AI, but
Yeah.
you never bothered to have somebody talk to you before. Something is very, very different now, and we're
Yeah.
going to get to what's different in them.
Got you. Okay. The third one that we may all be familiar with is autonomous AI. So some obvious ones there, but go on, you take it away and tell us what we're looking at here.
So autonomous AI is, for lack of a better word, it's like self-driving cars.
Yeah.
Right. So it's basically, it has a goal to go somewhere on its own, and it's aware of its surroundings and
Mm-hmm.
is able to navigate successfully, whether it's a drone, a car, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
This morning, I saw like a electric bike that was able to do all this stuff, which I actually
An
didn't know they
electric
could have.
bike.
An electric bike that was fully autonomous, and based on the training and the rules, it knows whether to stop, to go, turn left, turn right, accordingly. So it's sort of like when we think about an agent, which we're going to get to
Yep.
momentarily.
Yep.
It's given a goal, it's given a set of instructions, it's aware of the environment, and then
Go and
and then
achieve that goal.
goes.
Right, let's narrow it down a little. So there's some broad brush applications that kind of just set the scene that AI is not new. And I think
Right.
most people get that if they think about it, but it's like, okay, here are stuff that AI is being used with all the time. Now, the next 5 that I've identified here to talk about, it doesn't mean it's only used in the hospitality. These aren't unique, but it's kind of what we're looking to do is to take these 5 and then draw some correlation between how they are being used. Some are being used for a while, some are new kids on the block, so to speak, how it's being used in the hospitality environment. So the 5 that we're going to look at here is generative AI, conversational AI, analytical AI, predictive AI, and then prescriptive AI. So let's start with generative, just because everyone talks about ChatGPT. Everyone, when you say AI, they all go, oh yeah, ChatGPT. And hopefully the whole point of this is, no, it's bigger than that. But let's narrow it down. Generative AI, I think we know, but just for the purpose of clarity.
Yeah, so generative AI just has it generates something new.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks at what has it's been trained on and looks at the patterns and the sequences, and then when you ask it to do something, it looks on the at what it's been trained on, and then synthesizes that and creates something new. So like for text, for example,
Yep.
people think it's thinking, but it's not thinking. It is basically just a word algorithm, for lack of a better word, so about lack of a better way to say it. So basically, it says it predicts the next word. That's
Mm-hmm.
all it does, and it does it based off math. So if you ask a certain question, it says, okay, well, this is the type of response it would have, and they say this word, and then what word should come next? What is the statistically most dominant word to come? And then it just keeps doing the statistics to pick the words.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, very interesting. Okay. Conversational AI. And so I guess the obvious things are sort of chatbots are with that we see a lot, not just as we say within the hospitality industry, but that's the most obvious application.
yeah, so conversationally, so you have Alexa, but then you also have the smarter ones that have some generative behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have them answering phones, and they are sounding so much more human now.
Wow.
They're going to, I think they're going to take over level one sort of tech support,
Mm-hmm.
level one sort of call center support, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of, and in my opinion, because when I was at the hotels network, we had these voice agent there.
Yep.
I think similar to how when you used to call when the web was still new, it's like you can wait on the line
Yep.
for like another minute, or if you want a quick answer, go to the website and you find your
Yeah.
answer
Look it
there.
up. Yep.
I think what's going to happen is you're going to call a number, say if you want to wait for a person, it'll be 5 minutes, but we have a voice agent that can help you right now if that's what
Yep.
you want.
Yep.
And you with that, you understand that there are things it can and can't do. But I think that you get consistency
Mm-hmm.
through that, and it's sounding more and more human. And I also have a theory, which is not based in any fact, but I'm going to share this with you. Like
Go on.
I know that the older generations like to call,
Yep.
like to call telephone, like the boomers stereotypically. The younger generation doesn't like to make phone calls because I don't think they like talking on the phone. However, I think as they get used to talking to agents, like they're,
Mm-hmm.
as on the computer, when you have these things and you can talk to Chat GPT,
Yep.
I think once they know that they can actually talk to this technology and call it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a real person, but they can just kind of talk to the technology, I think those type of calls will increase as people
Interesting.
get comfortable with this technology like that.
So that's dealt with the conversational AI, analytical AI. That's we're getting a little bit deeper here into some of the data elements of it. So talk to us about analytical AI.
So analytical AI is essentially machine learning. It is looking instead of like before we were looking at generative is all about sort of text or images. This is all numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at past performance and then make some sort of assumptions as to how things are going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, in terms of analytical AI, you have a lot of these revenue management systems.
Mm-hmm.
They look at the past performance in terms of room rates, occupancy based on when certain things are happening. It could predict in the future based on the time, the season, the competition, and say, okay, this is how we think the rate should be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just making a prediction based off of past sort of like behaviors.
Okay, I've got you. And that's why when we see a lot about sort of business intelligence dashboards and things like this, that's kind of doing the analysis of what's the current position of the hotel at any given time, different departments, however they construct it, that will just say, okay, there's your dashboard. That's analytical AI that's behind it. That's kind of bringing in those patterns and those insights. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. You mentioned predictions. So is analytical AI and because another one I've got here is predictive AI. So
Yeah,
are
they're a
those two
little, like
things
I
kind of
say,
closely
yeah,
aligned or one
they're
and the
they're
same?
close.
Or
They're closely aligned, but I think analytical is all strictly numbers, whereas predictive personalization I think to me is based off of understanding sort of more intent.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you can look at a number of signals of some of a behavior of a group or a person, and
Mm-hmm.
based on the things that they've done, you can kind of predict if you show them X, Y, or Z, how they'll behave.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you have a website and you can identify somebody as high intent, meaning that you, based on all these signals, based on you've been tracking them, the pages that they looked at, the page that they came in from, the time of day, all these different factors.
Mm-hmm.
You say, okay, this person is high intent.
Yep.
So if this person is high intent, how do you message them? So someone who's high intent, you don't really want to show them any discount offers.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what you want to do is you want to try to get them to spend more. So what
Got you.
you do is you show them something that says, you know what, a higher room rate class, and you think that they might do like a suite
Yep.
or do a length of stay, get them to stay longer. So that is sort of like high intent. You try to get them to yield.
Okay.
Inversely, if you identify someone as low intent, this person's probably not going to book.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can then target them with a deeper, almost like a flash sale type offer
Yep.
that might get them to move the needle.
Got you.
And so you can just, so that way you only give it to that group of people.
Yep.
And so you can focus on like the percentage likelihood of them to book and then show them that. So that's a way you can try to convert low intent. And you certainly wouldn't want high intent people to see that because you anticipate they're going to book anyway.
I've got you. So the analytical AI would have looked at the statistics, how many people are coming from this location, this maybe using a mobile or a computer or whatever it may be, and shows you a dashboard of what's happening. The predictive bit kind of takes it to, so this is what you could be doing, or these are some things that would happen if you did A, B, or C. And I guess in a way, a bit like if we take it into an operational space within a hotel, so you may have a load of sensors around your engineering machinery and HVAC and all of this kind of stuff that could be showing you how they're performing, but the predictive AI may be taking those analytics and actually saying, okay, well, this could run hot for that period of time, but you might want to do a maintenance piece a little later down the line, because if it continues running at this kind of level, there could be a failure or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So because the other one we mentioned was sort of prescriptive AI or decision-making AI, where does, again, that can seem quite similar, prescriptive AI to predictive. Well, aren't I predicting something? What's the difference between a prediction and a prescription? So
the prediction, like in the example you have, is like, you know what, this machine, this boiler, we believe it's going to fail.
yeah.
So that is sort of the prediction, like it's going to fail within like 3 months.
Yep.
The prescriptive is actually more of decision making. It says it isn't just sort of saying this is going to fail. This is what you should do. Okay. So it kind of takes you to the next step. So it recommends recommends the best action to take based on what might happen.
So that's where things like if you take room pricing, so revenue management, that's into that kind of dynamic pricing, which is continually adjusting, making decisions. That's more prescriptive, whereas they would have done the analysis before to show you your position. The predictive piece would have predicted that this is what your rate maybe should be at this particular time. And then the prescriptive is that adjusting, you've kind of thrown it over to that automated, and it's prescribing and saying, we'll set the rate at this, and actually making that decision for you. Is that
that's right. Yeah. So that's right. Analytical, it does not include the decisions or the actions. So I totally agree with you. It's like more dashboard oriented, BI related.
Yeah.
And yes, so this prescriptive totally like idea is duetto in terms of, how to manipulate it and for the dynamic pricing as well.
Okay.
Exactly.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Because when I was looking at these three, I'm thinking analytical, analytic, predictive, prescriptive. They all seem quite close together, but it's almost the degrees it moves along that journey. And in a way, looking at revenue management, you can kind of see
Right.
how you had the analytical, while everyone was using the Excel spreadsheet. Then you almost had like a pricing tool that was making the recommendations. And then now you've got those more sophisticated tools where you could just switch on almost automatic pricing, and it's doing the prescribing for you and just setting it all up. No, okay, that makes sense. I can see how those elements. So that's covered the generative, the conversational, the analytical, the predictive, and the prescriptive. So let's go. They're all ones that we're familiar with and that we've seen over the last couple of years. The one that really seems to have landed and is the theme in AI of 2025, if I can put it that way, and you'll probably say it's been around for longer, but in my mind, it really seems to have been this tsunami of information has arrived this year, is AI agents and agentic AI, of which those two things are, some would say, one and the same or aligned or a derivative of. So talk to us about that AI agents, agentic AI piece. What's that all about?
Yeah. So it's sort of like when we talked about autonomous AI before, where it's, it acts independently.
Yeah.
So if you think about for agentic AI, if you think about before November of 2022, we were in a search world.
Yep.
And then once ChatGPT came out, we entered into the world of answers.
Yep.
And then the next step is actions and then goals.
Okay.
What agents are all about, actions are all about like automations and smart automations. So you like, if that, then that, if this, then that.
Yep.
And you can kind of put all sort of stuff to that. But if you then have these actions with intelligence and say, you need to think and here's how to do it and give it goals, then that's what these agents are all about. Agents are all about, they're goal driven, they act independently, and they continue on until they've accomplished whatever it is. Now, to me, agentic AI, so you can have an agent, but if you have a series of agents together, to me, that is agentic AI. It's just more of a plural.
Okay, I see.
Of them going together, or it could just be the concept of people using agents. But I think there are lots of different ways to look at agents. So if you're using ChatGPT o3 or Gemini Pro, and you put a request in and it asks for feedback to get clarification, and then it goes on and it starts searching the web and pulling all this information in and brings it back into you. You gave it a goal, and it pulls it back. That is like a simple agent that's doing searching, but it doesn't have tool use. So when you think about tool use, these are agents sort of like OpenAI's Operator or Mariner, where it can actually manipulate the browser. Say, I'm going to Indianapolis. I need to find a hotel that's close to the conference center, and find me something that within this budget range on these dates, go. So then you can see it go right to the internet and it starts to explore, it goes straight to Expedia because that's what it does. And then it started manipulating around Expedia, found me a room, and then said, do you want to go ahead and book this?
Right.
So so that's another type of an agent. Now, a third type of agent is you can set these up to do specific tasks. So like say I'm in marketing, and you can set up a agent to be more broader in focus, but the problem is if you give an agent too broad of a goal, it's gonna hallucinate and it's not gonna do it very well.
Right.
So the best thing to do is when you have an agent, you set it up to do a very specific task. So if you're having it write an email, just say, okay, this particular agent's job is to write the headline. This agent is to write the body. This one's to do whatever, the attachment or whatever you want to do. Next one just synthesizes it, next one sends it. So you create a workflow of different agents and they hand them off to each other. And if you do that, it's easier to control, easier to give them instructions, and you just do side by side. So to me, I think that is like an agentic workflow where you have a series of agents working
different
together.
tasks that they're all doing. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
got you. Yeah. So when you were talking before, when you with your previous experience with the hotels network, if they had the analytics coming in that they were telling you these people are coming in from this location, they're booking in this way, they might be high value. The predictive piece would then be, we would recommend you should be doing X, Y, and Z. Then if you were pulling together the generative piece of the AI to then construct that message, you could almost have somebody that would have a number of agents that when it goes from, so it said, right, you should do this and create this. The agents come in, they do their little bits, pull it together. You have someone has oversight on that to check it, make sure it's all aligned, make sure it hasn't hallucinated, done it okay, press a button, bang, go. They haven't had to sit there for half an hour, an hour and a half pulling that together. It's been done in 10 minutes. That's gone, press button, oversight, right, good to go. And they've been able, now they've got an hour's time to do something else more constructive and more valuable and of higher worth to the hotel, because the agents covered a lot of the basic tasks. Would that be like a good illustration or example of putting those stuff together?
That is a good illustration. It is like essentially the human in the loop.
Yep.
And the agent boss, where I talked about in here, you want to separate joy versus toil, and you want to automate anything that you just don't like about your job, and so you can maximize the joy. But as you're talking about it, I think a new type of toil is going to happen, because what's going to happen is in that workflow no, because in that workflow you're talking about there, the 99% of the time in the future, the technology will always get it right. Yep. In the future, I'm not saying right now, but in the future. Yep. But the human in the loop concept means that you're going to have to always check it and double check it and make sure it's all right. And I think for people, they say, oh, it's been right. Why do I have to do that? Yeah. So this whole thing right now that requires all this effort and creativity will be automated. And people, the double checking of the creativity and automation is going to be a little bit more toil related.
Yeah.
Because people are like, it's always been good. Why do I have to do this? But that one time that it's not right, it could cause a big financial problem.
What are some of the, just very briefly then, some of the risks and considerations that this agentic AI agents are going to bring to the party? Because it sounds like, oh yeah, right, I can get more productivity here, let's lean into it. But what are some of the considerations of risks associated?
Well, the considerations is bias. There's hallucination. So bias is based on the training. Like, say I use it to help me recruit people. Say it is biased against a certain group of people, that's a problem.
Yeah.
There's that. There is hallucinations where it might just spew out things that are not accurate, which we've seen a couple of different scenarios with lawyers as well as with airlines where it makes things up.
Yeah.
So those are hallucinations, and that's a risk. The other thing is people within giving information that shouldn't be available to it, personal identifiable information or anything proprietary.
Yeah.
So these are all risks. But I think the other thing is just not having the human in the loop and really looking at what these things are doing and just having too much trust. And because essentially these agents are black boxes.
Yeah.
And so you got to just keep them as focused as possible, and you have to watch them. You have to manage them.
Conscious of your time. And I said at the very beginning when we were talking about your book, so I want to give you the opportunity just to tell us a bit about them. We're going to reconnect again at a later point to actually talk about the book and some of what you've described within there and written. But I want to give you a little bit of time just to tell us about it, so that people and how people can go about accessing it.
Oh, sure. I appreciate that. So the book, there it is. It's called the AI Literacy Playbook for Hoteliers. And I made this specifically for hoteliers because it's based on my literacy mindset program. I've taken a couple of hotel groups through a training from CEO down to admin. And I learned a lot from those experiences. And I figured not everyone can kind of go through that training. So I put it in the book. And the concept is this. So uh, in terms of technology adoption, like we're talking a lot about a lot of sophisticated stuff here about agents. A lot of
Hmm.
hotel groups, they're not ready for that. They're afraid of that. While it can be enormously help them in terms of being productive, if they're afraid of it, they're going to be resistant. And if it's pushed down on it, people aren't going to adopt it and it will fail.
Hmm.
So the concept that I push through is this whole concept of AI ascension. And
Okay.
AI ascension means I want to give everybody in the company the same vocabulary, the same understanding of this technology, what it is, what it isn't, what it can do, what it can't do, and then just show them how it can help them in their job.
Hmm.
So it isn't there to replace them,
Yep.
it is there to amplify their abilities. And once they understand, I'm like, okay, you're doing this now, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to do some of this stuff that you keep doing over and over faster? Well, we can automate that. So then I talk about the automations. And then we automate, say now a lot of these repetitive tasks that you do now could be automated. And then I introduce the concept of agents as well as once they kind of are comfortable with automations. And then I take them through, just how to use all the like Office, like how to use this technology with Word, with PowerPoint, with Excel, and then also image generation, all this stuff, as well as the various different types of chatbots, what to use when or where. But I think one of the most interesting things, one of the things I think is really valuable is how I start the book out. And it's like looking at your particular job
Hmm.
and you take your job description and you can take it down and break it down into a series of tasks. And then from those tasks, you break them down to subtasks and then even to subtasks. And then at that level, you look at, okay, where's the joy versus where's the toil in those things in terms of what you do?
Yep.
And I look at, okay, what is the business value if we automate that? What's the risk? Wouldn't that be great if your job, you can do these things?
Hmm.
And once you win the hearts and minds of the people in the company, then all these other things that we're talking about with these automations and these agents become much more palatable to them.
That
At
makes
least
sense.
that's my theory.
Well, it's an interesting read. Where can people get hold of it?
They can find it on Amazon
Okay, we'll make
and
sure
just
there's the
look
link
at,
is in our notes that we put with this show. Yeah,
yeah. And also there's a link to it on my website, vivanderadvisors.com.
perfect. We'll put that in as well. As I say, we're gonna come back and revisit with you on that, and we'll break
Okay.
some of the core elements, draw some of the core elements out of it, and just make sure people can get a real grasp of what the concepts are that you're discussing. But for now, always appreciate you talking to you about this kind of
Oh,
topic. Always appreciate your time and your
oh,
insights. So thank you so much. It really is great to
oh,
talk with you.
it is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much.